All right, so here's another video about the box. Now I'm gonna show you a little bit about the brake control. Also, I wanted to show you the ceiling because we're finishing the ceiling now. I went through all the sidewall flats and all 9 foot and 10 foot down here. I don't know, it probably took an hour and a half. And we ran through 2 buckets of mud. So now we're just finishing up the ceiling. So what I'm gonna do for the brake, I'm gonna lock this before I even go up on the ceiling. And I'm gonna hold it pretty hard. I'm gonna stick it up. I'm running it on a number 1 because it's a flat. Now for boxes, I do this. I usually pull them off like that. I'll start right here again, and then I'll just go. Now I'll show you why I do that in a minute. Now I do the same thing on sidewalls. I'll stop it, and then when I wipe down, I'll show you. Now, I'm gonna come through here and run these butt joints. Now most of them are butt board. I'm gonna check them. And when I go fill the box up, usually with a full box, if you don't have butt board on the house and you're finishing regular butt joints, you'll get about 2.5 butt joints on each side out of a box of mud, okay? So let's take the 12 of this real quick. Let's check these. Okay, that's a butt board. That's a butt board. And that's a butt board. They don't need much to fill, a little bit. I mean, some of them a little deeper than others. That's a butt board. And that's a butt board. Okay, so they're all in. So they're gonna get run once. So I'm gonna run them wide open so I can take a little bit of mud off them if I have to. And you see how much time these butt boards save you. Make sure there's no goobers. This stuff will get into your mud. Usually I have a smaller knife, but it's over there by the bucket. So I'll stop it right at the butt joint. Now some people run over them. And I also want you to see something else. The reason I wipe it down, you see all these bubbles? You know, a lot of guys will run these things twice with the box, like I said. But when I'm running butt joints in the same time, then I just like to wipe it all together. So I ran all the flats. I've already wiped the 3 further ones. Now I'm just gonna wipe the ceiling down and make it nice. So the whole ceiling's running. Oh, one more thing, hold on. So let me run this over here real quick. See, I ran on my sidewall so I can come down on my butt joints and go into my flats that are already wiped down. Anybody who's not using butt board, you're losing a lot of time with butt joints. And I'm not getting paid by these people to talk about that. It's just the truth. As a finisher, you know, anything that saves you time, because you're laying a lot of mud on. So this one I didn't wipe earlier. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe it down now. And you see I'm gonna cut a lot of that air out. Now, when I get to the butt joint, I'm gonna take it like this, bring it over, right into it, and then I'm gonna come back and continue down my flat. Same thing here. Okay, I went into it. Now I'm gonna wipe this. And I'm gonna go back one more time on this one because it blends in with the other side. Now, I told you, I don't like sand in between coats. So, this helps a lot when you give it a little wipe down. Otherwise, you can come and sand the whole ceiling over if you wish. It's a lot. Now remember don't miss anything wiping down. And I'm trying not to take a lot of mud off the butt joints. I want to leave it there. Okay, now I'm going to give this one's got a little bit of air in it. Adjust my angle of my blade a little bit. Okay, then give it a check. Okay? As long as you're not humpy. You do not want it too humpy. You want a little line. Now, back to these lights where I was finishing. I told you I was going to show you about the lights. Now, a lot of guys, they go right around them. Okay? And another thing, when you have a lot of air, typically it means that it needs to be filled a little bit more. All right? But that's right about perfect. So, here we go. We got the light. Just take a little bit of mud. And what this does is actually, you know, some guys will go around it, but a lot of times the bevel cuts into the light. Now, if you're running around it with your box, you're gonna have a shallow spot right against the light. So you simply do that right there, you'll have no problems. Now wipe this as I go. Then I'll come through here. Now to me, this is just like hand finishing. You know, the box serves a great purpose of putting the mud on. Can you run a box and not wipe it? Sure. You can run the flats 2-3 times. Or you can just wipe them down with a knife, like that. Now, I'm not gonna have to sand this. I'll give it a little check here and make sure it's all right. And it's perfectly flat. Now, when I come through with my 12-inch box, it's literally gonna basically put a glaze coat right over this ceiling, and it's gonna be absolutely perfect. You're not gonna see any blemishes. Now, as I continue on here, you know, I've done, we're getting down at the bottom of this. This is a 2.5 buckets. I got a little bit left in this one to mix in, probably just enough to finish the ceiling. And you know, a lot of guys are gonna ask me why I'm on stilts. Well, I'll tell you. I'm on stilts because, one, I don't have somebody to wipe down right now, besides myself. And it's a lot easier for me. I'm up on my little bit taller stilts. Usually I would use my shorties, which are about, I don't know, 12, 14 inches, because I can reach the 9-foot ceiling off the floor with those stilts. But in this case, I'm simply, you know, running them on these stilts. So here's an angle what I want to show you. When you're coming off of an angled wall. Now if you look, I'll stick it over here, and all I'm gonna do is push up a little bit, turn the box, and go. It keeps it neat, nice. I'll probably get a little justice and push this over so the wheel's locked, so I can't move it. So, if I had somebody that was up here wiping down, I would run this to the floor with the extendable handle, and I'd knock this ceiling out. It'd probably take me about 20 minutes less. Now let's see if we have another buckboard there. That one's a little shaky. Oh, here's a bad one for you. You can see if you look at the top of that, you can see how the board's adjusting. Give me a second here. Oh, there's one more flat over here. It is. Hold on. You want to make sure you get everything as you go, so you're not having to come back on things. There's one around the corner here. I'll run everything, every possible flat that I can, so that when these are set up, and we might be running beads here in a little bit. There's 3 bedrooms upstairs, but it shouldn't take but about an hour and a half to finish that upstairs with the boxing of it, probably 2 buckets of mud. And what I'm gonna do here, these little ones, they're a little bit lumpy. So I'm gonna take them and split them. And like I said, when I come back on my beads, I'll be able to simply just coat the centers. And as long as I don't wipe any mud off, then they're gonna be a little bit indented in the middle, and they're just easy to fill with a tin. Now you see this? I'm gonna put this blade right on that hump. Okay, and I'm gonna bring it down. Now you see how much mud it filled up there on the right? I'm gonna do the same thing on the left. Now you see I got a goober in there. Wipe your blade with your finger. And then we're gonna finish this off. The jumbo box, yes, it does hold more mud, but it can only hold so much, just like the rest of them. Now let me run these last 2, and then I'll wipe everything down. So, to discuss the braking again. The braking in the box is important. You really want to learn when to use it, when not to use it. So I always use it and I lock it when I go up because I want it at the angle of the ceiling, even if I'm on the floor. And I'll lock it a little bit when I pull it off. I'll hit the brake and then I'll pull the box off. Same thing here. And I'll pull it off. Hit my butt joint. And then we'll go into this room. Now we're using 14-foot boards, which is nice. A lot of cases we use 16, which again, save a ton of time and a lot less butt joints. I should be able to fill this up 2 more times to finish this whole rest of the ceiling out here. I'm running low on mud, like I said. So I'm scraping all the mud down. Get it up to the pump. Wipe it off. Your boxes are going to get messy when it comes to lunchtime. When it comes to lunchtime, I'll go ahead and clean it up a little bit. Try to keep this bolt. You see this bolt? You try to keep that in the middle of the tape, and you'll have straight lines every time. And you won't have any problems. Now I'm going to run this on 0. Actually, no, I'm not, because these are flat. They were a little high for the floor. We got a butt board over here, so. Now I'm going to run this last flat, there's a couple butt joints over that doorway, and then we'll wipe it all down. I try not to leave them set up too long. It is nice when you have somebody literally right behind you, wiping down. To me, no matter what, even if you don't wipe them down and you're running the box twice, 2 times across the flats, you're still going to have to get up there with a knife for the feathers that come off the edge. Now, another thing I do is I make sure that there's nothing really in my way. I try to get the floor as clean as I can so that when I'm on stilts, then I've got no problem tripping over things. Because a lot of times you're not looking at the floor. Now, these I'll split. I already know they're a little humpy. In the middle, I'll split each one of them. And then I'll leave the mud there. I'm going to wipe it, but I want to make sure that mud stays there. Okay, now we're going to wipe all this stuff down. Do not forget where you've been. If you don't wipe one down, you're going to end up cussing at yourself. Check them. Make sure they're not too heavy. You know, right now these are about perfect, so I'm not putting a lot of pressure on. I just want to go lightly to clean up the air bubbles a little bit. You're not going to get them all. You just want to make it kind of neat. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hand finish that little butt joint to make it flat. Now usually I would do this with a 10-inch knife, but in this case I have a 12 to wipe down. So that's what I'm using. Now I'm going to start over here. This is the first flat that I showed you guys that I ran. I'm going to wipe it again just because there's a ton of air. After the mud's been mixed for an hour or so, it tends to get a little bit more airy. So you might have to take an extra swipe or two. And that's about it. So these little ones over here, give it a check. Make sure it's flat. I'll hit these two right here by hand. They're small. Just so I have some kind of fill there when I cross my corner bead. If you notice, I tried to get it over that corner while I was here. These are mud set beads, so sometimes the mud will suck into those corners. So just give a little pack there, and when you come back, you'll be thankful. Now let's go on down here and finish wetting the ceiling joint. The hangers we use are very good. They really take their time and do a good job. Now, I'm trying to leave as much mud as I can on these butt joints. And I'll show you a video tomorrow after they're dried up to show you what they look like. Now, see, the longer, I'll tell you something else, the longer it sits, the harder it is to get the air bubbles out of it. So it might take you another wipe or so, but you're not gonna get them all. But you wanna get the majority of them. Now this one here especially, you see I got a little groove here, so I'm gonna take just a little bit of mud, go up that little groove there. This is something I could do when I'm wiping down the centers with my pen. Now this here I wanna keep the mud up there. I wanna get that hump where those two boards adjusted. And I want to get that so it's as flat as possible. That way when I come across with my mud shot, I don't have any issues. So again, this is really airy, but it is flat right now. So we're trying to just adjust the angle, real light pressure. And you see if you adjust the angle of your blade, now I'm not putting any pressure on this, it literally takes out almost every single air pocket. A lot of guys are, like I said, they're adding soap. And yes, soap helps, but the angle of your blade makes a big deal when you're trying to get stuff like this out. See, if I just go light with it, okay, real light, and kind of straighten my blade out, it takes almost every single air bubble out of this. Now, where I join there, I mud's a little bit heavier. I'll cut there, I'll cut here. Now you see, now I'm going to check it, and it's perfectly flat. Same thing here, where I join, I give a little cut, I don't want high marks, high spots. Now, again, not much pressure, just enough to take the bubbles out. Check it, make sure it's flat. Always check your work. Because there's nothing like coming back the next day and you have a joint that's humped out a little bit and you can't do anything about it. Now, also while I'm going through, typically this is on the guy spotting the screws, but you see these holes right here in the angle? I'll just give them a little spot. And you'll run into a lot of it. The mud that you're taping with the bazooka is thin. Now, again, not much pressure, not taking much mud off. I'm basically just giving it smooth, a little smoother. If your box is set right, it's going to put that mud on exactly flat. Now on the butt joints, I'm reiterating again that I run these on 0 and I leave the mud, even if it's not that bad of a butt joint. Now, hopefully, I've covered everything that I ran. I'm always looking for anything that could affect my next phase of finishing. So when I'm on corner beads or when I'm close to corner beads with a knife and I'm wiping down, I'll be looking at the corner bead. Now, this here, see, this flat's set up. I ran it earlier. A lot of people run through and run all their flats and then come back in again. I don't like to come back into a rim more than twice if I don't have to. And that's all I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna give it a check. You see there's a little line there. I'll give it one more wipe. It just looked a little bit heavy there. And there it is. So that's ceilings with the box. And again, if I had one more person to wipe down, I'd still be going with the box, and the ceiling would probably take about 30 to 45 minutes, the entire thing. You know, where this video, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 minute video, not that long. But I'll have another video here tomorrow when I cross the centers of the butt joints. And I'll probably have another one a little bit later when I start running beads if I get that far. I've still got the upstairs of this house. There's a couple rooms that are 11.5 feet high. I've got one with scaffold and it's 12 feet. It's a barn ceiling. So I might not get that far today, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. I'll talk to you guys later.